What's up, everybody? This is Salvatore from the Psychoactive Academy. I just wanted to hop on here and basically show you some of the best setups that I see in my perspective about gold. Honestly, you could take these setups and apply them to any market, whether it be metals, indices, foreign exchange, anything like that. But I personally like trading gold because it moves it moves faster. And honestly, I've been trading gold and indices for years. I actually started trading indices in the S&P 500 in another market with futures in the beginning of my trading journey. For those of you who don't know, I've been trading since 2017, and it was cool. I eventually, of course, got introduced into Forex and stuff like that. And you could trade futures, gold, but the truth is I was just a little bit more interested in the Forex side of things just because of the ease of access, right? Especially when it comes to some unregulated brokers, like you don't have to have a lot of capital to start. When I funded my first account in futures, it was like $2,500, but it was, and it was, and my mentor at the time was telling me, 2,500, $5,000 is enough to make a full-time income, and I always say to people, trading for me in the beginning, because this was how my mentor was looking at it. Trading, if you look at it like a career, just like any career, it's going to take time. But in regard, because it's such a financial sport, so to speak, it is better to think of the concept of you trying to make money to not make enough money to not have to worry about money. And that's always been my objective because obviously you could make a ton of money with day trading and investing. Like this is not something that is a surprise to anyone, but the truth is if you focus on the money too much, it's going to scare the money away, basically. But, you do have to have some kind of a passion to or a reasoning why outside of the money being, what the money can do for you. Is it your time? Is it your freedom and stuff like that? And I've always been attracted to both because as a person, as a human with very limited lifespan, at least here in America, where they say 65 is the average lifespan of a person, of a, average person here in America. The typical person will work, the average American dream is, oh, you work 40 years or you work 30 years, and obviously people in their 60s and 70s are still having to work, especially in this economy. But you work until, 40 years of your life. And let's just say you use your adolescent years figuring out what you want to do for work. And so you're in 8, 10 years worth of schooling, then you spend 40 years worth of working. And then it's like, that's 60 years right there. So how much time, what is the value of your time, So I always say that that was always my perspective of how much do I value my time and how important it is to have my time to just be. Like some people think, when they get sold the trader lifestyle on Instagram and YouTube and stuff like that. And I fall victim to it too sometimes watching these lifestyle videos in the beginning. I was addicted to YouTube. I still am kind of. I would say it's one of the only social media platforms that I kind of can't live without. But in the beginning, I, a lot of people are sold this idea, oh, you could do this, you could do that, you go shopping every day and this, that, and the third. But the truth is, that was never my lifestyle. Like people who know me, like, yeah, I'll still do, like, traveling has always been a big part of my life, even since high school. I've been traveling since high school. And I'm fortunate to do that. And I have been fortunate to go so many places. But the truth is, you know, the only reason why I want money is to sustain the same lifestyle that I've already have, and of course increase the quality of it, but not just for me, but for my eventually my family. So I love what I do, on my off time and outside of trading. I have much other interest than just staring at charts. But what keeps me motivated to look at the charts and to develop this skill is the idea of the freedom and of time that I can have, to do what I want with my time, and then so I could really follow God's plan and really do what God put me here to do. God didn't put me here to look at the charts. God didn't put me here to make all this kind of money. And I know that's inevitable. You know, I'm a Leo rising and I'm Italian and Puerto Rican. Like I come from a strong, um, semi-strong, I'll say this, semi-strong background of entrepreneurship. And, you know, making money is always going to be a constant thing, but it's like, what do you want outside of the money? I just wanted to leave you with that before we went into the charts. So, just bear with me for a second. So, this is gold. It is currently December 30th, just before the new year. Happy holy days and happy new year to everyone out there who celebrates it. Um, the month of December has been interesting, you know, with Q4, as we know, Q4 is one of the most stimulated months, or at least December in Q4 is one of the most stimulated months because of the holidays. You know, 70% of the economy is consumer spending. So naturally, during this time, the economy is going to look like it has some sprinkles on it. But obviously, we have current wars happening in the Middle East, current talks of wars, a bunch of stuff happening in the current economic climate that is shifting um, investors and stuff like that. Obviously, because it is the end of the year, people, you know, a lot of people with money are looking to dump money back into the market as much as institutional have hedge funds and a lot of the whales are going on break and they're using algorithms to manage their trading. People are looking to dump money into other assets or transfer money into other assets to negate the taxes, to reduce the capital gains from the entire year. So you also have to take that into consideration. But we see what I do on for my analysis is obviously I go to the daily time frames. I trade mostly levels. I trade mostly price action, but inside of price action, there is support and resistance, trend lines, and stuff like that that I do also take into consideration. So obviously, we see here it was in October we had this a downtrend or a little retracement of downtrend, breaking through, kind of coming back, retesting, and then since then we've been in such strong bullish price action where price has really only come back to this resistance zone, which is 1980 or no, yeah, 1980 range. But in early December, December 1st, yeah, the week of December 1st, gold had reached an all-time high, which was 2145. So it is interesting to see. And basically, we know, I think this was a combination of news that was the war, some of the talk with the war in Ukraine and in the Middle East and stuff like that. But essentially, what we're seeing now is we had a strong retest of that move. And then we have actual price action coming in and kind of filling in and price correcting itself. So I trade off of these levels and obviously I take the trend into consideration a lot. On the 4 hour time frame though, we can see that there were two trends happening on the uptrend. And I like to use trends a lot because trends to me, um you want to you need them. You need the trend because the trend is your friend. Unless you have some kind of strategy that allows you to take counter trend setups, by all means. I do have a basically only one counter trend setup that I would ever trade, and I'm going to go into that trade with you today. But for the most part, essentially what I'm looking for is a bounce or a break, right? Bounce or a break of either a trend line or a key level. So it's simple, very, 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 very simple. But here we had a trend line forming. Here we had a few bounces here, a couple bounces here, and then price started to become a little bit how you say, overreached or overbought, if you will. And price actually gave us a really decent amount of good setups on not just on our levels, but on this trend line as well. I took a trade here, which was a 1 to 3.5 I was actually stopped out the first time, but ended up re-entering. I ended up re-entering this trade because it gave plus 150 pips, and I didn't even end up riding it up to all the way up here, but I did get out somewhere around this area here, which was 150 pips or so, which is not bad. And this is why this is something to take into consideration with gold, because gold is one of those pairs where it's like, depending on your strategy, if you're a swing trader or intraday trader, like it will give you intraday setups. It'll give you a setup a day, a setup every single day, depending on your strategy or what you look for. If it's, you know, support and resistance, or smaller time frame support and resistance, or smaller trends and stuff like that. Like there is that, but what I look for in my strategy is, sustainable moves. You know what I mean? Sustainable moves that are gonna be there, regard. And if I have to hold it for a couple days, then cool. But the cool thing about gold is that it sometimes will hit it in a day or less, depending on a variety of things. But, gold can normally move 100, 200 pips in a few hours, and that's normal movement for gold. And that's why I like gold. You know, I like the liquidity and the volatility of it. So, because it's clear that if you catch good entries based off of your strategy, there's without question, you could easily get 1 to 3, 1 to 4, 1 to 5, so which is something that I've been struggling with. So this past week, I had taken a few trades with gold. The first trade that I had taken was a great setup, right? The second trade that I had taken was not a good setup. I actually had gotten stopped out. I took a loss there. I typically risk around 40 to 50 pips. I don't like risking any more than that. But the trade that I really wanted to talk about was this trade right here, which is the break of the trend line. Okay, so whenever there is a break of a trend line, oh, I accidentally moved that alert down. I didn't mean to do that. All right. So whenever there is a break of a trend line, even if it's in an uptrend, what I look for a pullback. So I'll kind of take you over here. What I look for when we're in an uptrend, let's say we're in an uptrend from left to right, right? Gotta have a break through that level, right? We're in an uptrend, boom. But we have something like this happen, right? Boom, 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 boom. Okay. So let's just say we have a trend line here, right? We have a trend line here. And we see price hitting that trend line, respecting that trend line. Okay, cool. But then we have price hitting a little bit of resistance here up in this right in this key level area, right? And then all of a sudden we have a break of the trend line. We have a break of the trend line, and then we have a retest of that trend line, right? And then it continues down to the downside. Even though, yes, I know the trend is bullish overall, this setup is still one of the most valid setups that I love to take. And I'll tell you this about this trade because this trade it actually happened overnight. And I'll tell you, I set a sell limit because I saw the break of the trend line during London. And I was like, I can't stay up to take this trade. I have to go to sleep. I don't necessarily anymore. Like I do look for setups during New York and during let's just say Asian session, which is 11 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. I do look at the charts during those times mostly, but the thing is, I'm not going to stay up to the middle of the night to watch. If I'm in a trade already, I'm not going to stay up to see if the trade is going to hit take profit or see if it's going to hit stop loss or wait for the trade to develop overall. If I'm confident in the setup, which I was here because it was a clear break of the trend line with momentum, and then we had a pullback. So at first I was getting into the trade here, and then price action showed me actually it wasn't the cleanest, it wasn't the cleanest entry. So I actually had gotten out of this trade, and this was around 12 o'clock, somewhere around there. And I was like, you know what? I have to go to sleep. So I'm gonna put a sell limit at my sell limit was actually at 2072, somewhere around there. But my analysis here was 2074, and it literally hit it without any drawdown. It was such a beautiful trade when I woke up and I saw that by the time I had woken up and checked my charts, which is 7 a.m., 8 a.m., price was already broken through this level. And I was like, wow, that is such a beautiful trade, a one to almost three and a half. And those are just one of my favorite setups when trading gold because when even when you have a strong trend, but there's a clear break of the trend, gold is going to give you a retest. Mostly all pairs do this. It doesn't happen every single time, but I know that it's high probability that if price breaks a trend line, bounces and comes back to that trend line where it broke to, it's going to continue down to the downside, even if it's just for hitting that next level. Obviously, I know I couldn't hold this trade forever, but it gave me a good 1 to 2, 1 to 3, which I was more than okay with. So that was pretty much my trades last week for gold. I'm excited to take more trades into the new year. And yeah, happy trading.